Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Eventful Life Living Out Loud. I am your host, Janelle Boyd. I am the owner of the Eventful Life Enterprises. I also am a mompreneur, an event producer, and most recently, guys, I coined myself an instigator, okay? Because I like to make you think a little bit differently in this space. The Eventful Life Living Out Loud, what is it all about? It is about bringing women to you every week that are mompreneurs, women entrepreneurs who are, sharing their ups and downs. I like to call it failing forward. But they're doing it authentically, right? Because a lot of times what I've learned is that we think that we are experiencing a situation or problematic things on our own by ourselves. And honestly, guys, that is so far from the truth. We experience a lot of the same things, but the caveat is sharing it so that we can learn from each other and know that you're not alone. So I'm so excited to be back in this space with you again this week. I appreciate the fact that you actually make the choice to share this time and space with me every single Thursday. And I'm excited to jump into our conversation today. So today I have with me, I'm excited. I have another mompreneur who is phenomenal. And I'm excited to have her here because we're going to talk a little bit about sales, but in a different way. And so Amy Walker, she is a mompreneur. I call her a sales guru because when we initially came into each other's sphere, that's what I heard her talking about. And I've seen the growth and just how she's continued to kind of change the game a little bit, even the way she approaches things. And it's just a breath of fresh air to see how she has maneuvered in those waters. And then also just recently, because this is the other thing I love about her, she's always doing something new. And so just recently, she's actually a new author because she just got through putting together a fiction book, okay? We won't get into a whole lot of it here, but I have to tell you, I was really excited that she decided to write a fiction book. A lot of times when we see people writing books, it's usually about their life, right? It's usually something about their life or that has impacted their life. But she's pulled some things together and I would say it's probably very juicy, right?
It's super juicy and it's so fun. Oh my gosh. It's a lot of work. I've been working on this book for a couple of years. It will come out in August, but it is like joyful work. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, when do I get to work on the book? When do I get to work on the book? I'm so excited to work on the book. So
Yes.
the first book in the trilogy is written. The second book is written and it's with the editors. And the third book I'm writing right now.
Yes, that's so exciting, Amy. And what it says, guys, and I shared with her before we went live, is that she's doing something that she's always kind of wanted to do. And she mentioned the word joyful. I think there's so much more of that we need to do, right?
Yeah.
There's so much more work that is joyful, that's filled with joy that we need to put into the universe, because that's what it's all about. So Amy, let's dive in, because I know how this goes. Our time goes by fast, and before you know it, we'll be saying bye. So So I want to start with your journey, where you started. How did Amy Walker Consulting come to be? And how did you even develop this love of sales?
Well, I started off loathing sales and being terrible at them and being a struggling entrepreneur for so many years that I was like, I got to figure this sales thing out because I was working twice as hard as everyone else for
Mm,
less results and less
yeah.
money and less cash. So I started my first business when my oldest son, who is now 18 and getting ready to leave home, when he was 3 months old.
Oh my
And I started it because I am a driven woman. Like I am wired to want to have a lot going on. And so being a stay-at-home mom of one baby, I was like, I cannot tell you how many episodes of The Wiggles I have watched and how many diapers I have changed. And like, I wanted something for me.
God.
And so I just started with that in mind. And I was really pretty bad at it. And it frustrated me because it was the first time that I'd ever been bad at anything that I really
Mm,
tried at. Do you know what I mean? Like when you're that
yeah,
high
yeah.
achiever in high school and you can
Oh
get the
yeah.
grades and you can go after whatever you want to go after. And then I was like really sucking at sales. And it was doing a number on my confidence.
Yeah.
At the time I was doing direct sales, I was selling cosmetics, and I was like, I am not going to let lipstick be the thing that is my undoing. Like, this is not going to happen. So,
Right. Of all things, lipstick, right?
yeah, no, that like I will not go down to the mascara. Like, it's not happening. And so I was really bad at sales for quite a while, and several years, in fact. And
Yeah.
I really wanted to give up many times, but I remember one moment where I was at the end of my limit, and I just thought, I did this so that I could earn extra money, and
Mm.
have something that's fulfilling. And I
Yeah.
actually hate every minute of it, and it's just taking me away from my family, and I'm not making money. So I want to
Yeah.
quit. And I
Mm.
remember in that moment, having this moment of divine inspiration where, like, spirit is what I call it, whispered
Yeah.
to me. You can call it whatever you want, but that's what I call it. Like, spirit whispered to me, no, it's not your time to quit, because this is where
Mm.
you're going to become the woman that I need you to become. And I was
Wow.
like, well, all right, I guess I'll keep selling more lipstick. I don't know what's the big purpose of
Okay,
that.
I don't know what this thing is that you
Yeah.
got going on with this
I don't
lipstick
know what
here.
that's all about, but it was, it really has been my development ground. And so
Wow.
fast forward, I did that for quite a while. And then because I had learned sales skills, I
Mhm.
was able then to transition into running a sales team for a coaching and development company. And
Wow.
while I was with them, I was an independent contractor. I was earning a great living. It was the first time ever I really made six figures a year,
Mm.
and loved the
So wait a
team.
minute. I don't want to interrupt, but like I just want to put things in context here because you
Yeah,
literally went from the
terrible.
testing sales, like just
Yep.
feeling like, you know what, like you said, I suck at this. This is not my jam. Like I need to go find something else to do. And started making six figures running a sales team. Like that's
Yeah.
insane.
Although there was 8 years in between. So I think we
True.
should say that.
That's true. But even in that 8 years, I mean, the fact that you kept, I mean, because you mentioned a great point, which is a lot of times when we are not good at something right off the cuff,
Mhm.
then we dismiss it, like we let it
Yeah.
go, right? And I remember this quote very fondly saying, be willing to be bad at something
Yeah. Until you get good.
until you get good. And
Mhm.
so I'm really impressed by that. And I want to point that out to the audience because I think we do. We have to be willing to put ourselves in a space sometimes
Yep.
where you're not gonna always be good at it.
Well, and so many people just say, I'm just not a salesperson, right? And it's their cop
Yeah.
out. And
Yeah.
in fact, that's actually why I titled my sales book the way it's titled. It's called the I'm Not a Salesperson Sales Book, Sell Like a Natural, Even If You're Not, because that was me in the
Right.
beginning. I was like, I'm just not a salesperson. And so we use that as our escape
Hmm.
versus, saying, okay, I'm not a natural cook. I'm not a natural parent. I'm not a
Right.
natural wife. I'm not a natural, like, everything
But
that
you've
I do that's
learned.
of value,
Yeah.
I've learned, I've developed. It's not like a
Yeah.
scientist is like, oh, I'm a natural born scientist. No,
Right.
like, you have abilities, but you have to cultivate them.
That's right.
Yeah, I play the cello. I'm not a natural cellist. When I first
Right.
started
You didn't
playing, it
just pick
sounded
up the
awful.
cello and just start playing.
Yeah, it sounded awful. I remember one time I was playing all my versions of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star that I knew for my family, and my parents actually, my mom laughed so hard she had tears streaming down her face. It was awful. Like, it doesn't start off good, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't get good with time and
Right.
development and effort. And so, I was running the sales team for this company and really creating massive results for them. During the time that I was running their sales team, we grew from, they had done 250,000 in sales, and then we did 500,000, then we did 1 million, then we did 2 million in 3 consecutive years.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that was a
That's
gift for
awesome.
me. And I want to point this out too, because sometimes entrepreneurs feel like it has to be all in all the way right now,
Yes.
or they have failed.
Yeah.
My entrepreneur journey was me owning my own business, and then me
Yeah.
working inside of someone else's, and then me owning my own. But it was
Thank
exactly what I
yeah,
needed.
thank you for saying that,
Yeah.
because sometimes you have to, and I don't want to call it necessarily a step back because I don't even think that it's always that it's a step back, but sometimes you have to be willing to step into let's call it a developmental role. Sometimes you
Mhm.
have to be willing to step into a developmental role so that you can then step back out and be more of what you're aspiring to be, you know?
Yeah.
And so I love that you said that, because we don't always look at it like that. We're like, well, I don't want to go backwards. Well, it's not necessarily going backwards. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. And then when I started Amy Walker Consulting, it really came out of a place of I was having, so while I was working with them, I had 2 babies. My last 2 are 18 months apart. So
Yes.
I
And you
was
have how
here.
many kids
I
total?
have five
Yeah.
boys.
I was saying
Yeah.
4. Oh my gosh, I missed
No.
one. Don't let me leave one out.
Yeah. And one of them is really like 3 kids all in one. He's a lot. It's my youngest. He's a lot.
It's
We
always
love him.
those youngest.
Yeah. So we were getting ready to have Brendan. I was 6 weeks away and I felt called into starting my own business.
Yeah.
And God was like, it's time. And I was like, no, 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 God, it's not time. It's time for maternity leave. What are you talking about? It's time to start a business. No, no, no. And I was pretty resistant. But I did. I started the business, and it was really with a desire to be able to have my own time to grow my
Mhm.
own thing for me and my family. Like
Yeah.
when you're working inside of someone else's system, you can do really well, but you can
Mhm.
only do really well so far. And when you get to the point where you're like on the verge of making more than the owners, like
It's
that's
yeah, like
it.
where's there to go?
Yeah, that's it. And so I had kind of tapped out my growth there. And when I started the business, I started with a vision of I wanted more entrepreneurs to
Yeah.
be successful in their dreams. Like I saw what it was like to help this business owner go from,
Right.
to that 2 million a year. And it
Yeah.
was amazing. And I was like,
Yeah.
what if I could do that with more than one person at a time? That would
That's
be
good.
awesome.
Right, right. Yes, more of that, please.
Mhm.
I love that. I love that. And I love that it made you, maybe not at the time that you thought it was supposed to be, but it made you step into your own. I always say God has a sense of humor. He will laugh at our plans, because we're like, no, I'm
Right.
going to do this first, and then this next, and then this next. And he's like, yeah, okay, sure.
Yep.
So that's so good. Let's talk about you, and you touched on this a little bit in your journey, about just kind of stating that we're not, what we're not. Like, I'm not a
Mhm.
salesperson. And, sales, honestly, while it's starting to evolve, I've even seen it in my own journey in starting out as a sales and marketing, manager, back when I was working in corporate, that it had a very yucky stigma to it. It's just
Sure.
like, everybody always envisions that used car salesman. Listen, and I'm not trying to offend anybody who does sell cars, but they kind of create that meme of the car salesman who's like, you want to buy this, you got to have this,
Right.
and so that is what kind of lives in our brains sometimes, especially entrepreneurs, because we're like, well, I don't want to come off like that.
I don't want to come
um
off salesy. I hear that all the time. I don't want to be salesy.
exactly,
It's my pet peeve,
salesy. Where did
actually.
that come from? Right, salesy.
Yeah, it's my pet peeve because what you're really saying is I don't want to be sleazy. I don't want to be sleazy
Mm,
either, but I sure want to be
right.
salesy, because if I'm not salesy, who's being salesy for my business, and where's the cash coming from? Right?
Exactly.
So I think we need to
Exactly.
change that. In
Yes.
fact, that is my request to the universe today, is if you ever catch yourself saying, I don't want to be salesy, just change it to, I don't want to be sleazy. And then we can say,
Mm,
of course,
that's
you don't
so
have to be.
good. Right. Exactly. Because who does, right?
Yeah.
So that's really, really good. I don't want to be sleazy. I'm going to remember that the next time I talk about sales. That's good. So, but that brings me to the question of, you know, how do you kind of reframe your mind around that roadblock of, I don't want to ask those questions, or I don't want to approach that conversation.
Sure.
And how much of it do you feel like has to do with your inner being of,
Mhm.
you know, who you are, right?
Yeah, so sales is 3 things that create the magic sweet spot. It's your
Mhm.
mindset, your skill set, and your activity. So,
Mindset, skill set,
yep.
activity.
Yeah,
Got
and
it.
they all 3 have to be in place. And a lot of times when we're struggling with sales, there's 1 or 2 that are weak, And
Yeah.
so we're frustrated, like
Yeah.
if you're working really hard and you're not getting sales, it's not an activity. You don't need to sell, you don't need to have more sales calls. You need to work on your
Mm.
mindset or your skill set. Or,
Mm.
if like you're working on your positive attitude and you're working on developing your skills, but you're just not having enough calls, it's
Yeah.
an activity issue. So when those three
Mm.
are in alignment, it's really, really good.
That's good.
Um, I always get asked the question, can anyone learn to sell? And I'm going to give you my honest
That's a
answer.
good
The honest
question.
answer is no, but most people can. If you have the
Mm.
ability to connect with other people, then you have the ability to learn how to sell. And I do recognize that there's a percentage of our population that they can't connect with people. Like they're
Mm.
not wired that way, right?
Okay.
But most
Now,
of you are.
does that correlate at all to you being, an introvert, extrovert,
Nope.
ambivert? Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
It's more like and I'm not trying to make generalizations because this
Sure.
is huge, but think about there are some people on the autism spectrum where they just don't connect. They don't have interpersonal connection. That's just
Yeah.
not the way that they're wired. Now, it
Right.
doesn't mean that you can't be a successful business owner. It just means that
Yeah.
you need to hire a successful salesperson, right?
Right.
So
Right.
everyone can be successful, but that's really it. And so
Yeah.
when people are like, "Oh, but I'm an introvert." I'm like, "I know, me too." Like I might look like an extrovert when I'm on a
Yeah.
video, but if you see me at a party, it's my husband talking and me being like, how much longer do we have to stay? Because I need to,
I'm ready
I've
to
hit my
break out of
people
this
quota.
joint.
Like I love people, but I have a people quota. Just got to know
Right.
that. So
Right. That's
it
so
doesn't
good.
really have to do with anything like that. If you have the ability to connect with people, you can learn to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the way that we start the shift is really around, for me at least, I treat every sales call like they are my client. And this is
Mm-hmm.
just the first interaction that I get to have with my client. Now, some of them, it's a very short relationship as a client, and that's all we do is we just have a sales call. But I treat every single appointment like I'm so excited to start working with my next client.
Yeah.
And it's the door that I get to open for them to come into my shop. That if I had the most beautiful shop and I wanted everyone
Mm-hmm.
to come in, but I keep the door locked, no one's going to visit my shop. So
That's
it's
good.
opening the door to my service. And it's the first step. It's the first place where I get to serve my clients. And I love doing it. It's so
Right.
much fun.
That's good. That's good. I love the analogy of opening the shop so they can come in and look around or come in and see what you have. That's
Mhm.
really good. Um, how do you kind of, let's say, how do you liken that to someone who maybe has, low self-confidence, or they're just like, they have a really hard time with, because I know you said the being able to connect, right?
Mhm.
Does that self-confidence and self-worth kind of tie into that in terms
Yeah.
of how you see yourself? Because I feel like, sometimes when we're not in a space where we speak positively to ourselves,
Mhm.
right? Affirm ourselves, then sometimes that can translate to,
Absolutely.
okay.
Yeah, so absolutely it does, but I want to tell you my secret to success in life. You don't have to be fixed in order to be good. Like,
Mm,
and so
that's a
this
good
is
point.
something that I used to feel like, well, I got to master positive self-talk before I can be successful, or I've got to,
Okay.
master affirmations and I can't be in scarcity at all ever if I'm going
Yeah.
to be successful. And I kept putting all of these qualifiers on. And so it felt like, and it was, I
Yeah.
had created an impossible journey that in order to be successful, I had to be a perfect human. And that's not realistic
Mm,
either.
yeah,
So
absolutely not.
I like the analogy, and I got this from Dr. Monica Ogondo, is who's driving?
Yeah.
Can I have low self-esteem in the car with me? Yes, but low self-esteem can't drive. Can I have
That's
fear in
good.
the car with me? Sure. But it's can't drive. And
Yeah.
so I just have to look at that and be like, okay, I am imperfect, I
Sure,
am
sure.
disorganized. I still every level new devil, they say. I
Yeah, yeah.
still have areas that I feel imposter syndrome creep in, and I
Mm,
still have areas where fear creeps in, and I still have self-doubt that creeps in. But
yeah.
the difference now versus later is it just doesn't drive. Like I'm like, I see
That's
you sitting there in
good.
the back seat. We're still going, right?
Right, right. You may have to be in the trunk.
Yeah. I mean, anyone who's ever taken a road trip with toddlers, you know what it's like to you're just going anyway, right? Like,
That's
yeah,
so
you're back there, you're making a little fuss, but
noise.
we're
Yeah.
still going where we're going.
That's so good. I love that. Yeah. You don't wait until your kids get grown, right? To travel. You're
Hmm.
like, hey, you just gonna have to go.
Yeah. Deal with it.
Right. I love that. I love that. Um, so let's talk about if there is someone who, if there's a woman entrepreneur out there who's trying to figure out like, how do I start stepping into more sales? Like I know, like you said, just do it. Like, you gotta be able to go for it. But are there certain things beyond that,
Mhm.
either strategy wise or even, belief wise that you would recommend that they do?
Well, I really recommend that you don't just power through sales because if you
Mm,
are bad at it, you can do 100 sales calls, you can do 10 sales calls, and you can still end up with no sales.
ooh,
So
yeah,
I really do recommend that this is an area where you got to slow down and you've got to
yeah,
learn the skills. So it's mastering the mindset, the skill set, and then
mm,
knowing how much activity it actually takes. When it
yeah,
comes to the mindset, um, I would definitely work on your self worth. That
mm-hmm,
shows up and affects sales quite a bit. I
mm-hmm,
would definitely work on your beliefs around money and your stories around
mm,
money. I always tell my
wow,
clients stories are expensive. You can't afford to buy them.
wow, that's good, that's
So,
good,
figuring out what the stories are,
yeah,
scarcity and lack, fear of rejection, all those things. Like you
yeah,
get to work on those things. Again, they don't have to be gone and
yeah,
like kicked out of the car. They just can't drive.
yeah,
So it's a constant work in progress. The mindset piece is a constant work in progress.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
With the skill set, what you're looking to learn there's a few critical skills that will make a big impact. Number one is getting a sales script that works and that's high converting.
oh,
Um,
that's good, that's
yeah,
good.
that makes a big difference. Number
Now,
two,
let me ask
go
you
ahead.
real quick, Amy. I'm sorry to interrupt. When it comes to a sales script, do
Yeah.
you recommend? Because I know it takes me back to the old days when I was in corporate, and we used to have these like very thorough, detailed out, like don't veer
Yeah.
from this, and I could see the look of horror in my team's face, where they would be like,
Right.
okay, but I would never say that. Like,
Right.
how much of, how much do you believe in, individuality within your script to kind of make it you versus being robotic, right?
Well, your script should be a framework, and the
Okay.
framework should be focused around how the brain makes decisions. And
Mm,
so there is a process that we go through as we make decisions. Effective sales scripts simply walk you through the process, they take you down the right path.
right.
But in terms of like how you say specific things,
Yeah.
say it however you want as long as you're following the framework. So, like, for
Uh,
example, one thing that most people don't have in their framework, it should be in everybody's, is before you ever talk about your products or your services, you need to go through the discovery part, right? Everybody just
right.
does the discovery. They find out what are their
Right.
pain points, what do they want, where are they at, where's the gap. Everyone
Yeah.
does that.
Yeah.
But very few people actually stop and say, so, are you committed to doing something about that?
Mm,
If they're not committed to solving their problem, why are they going to be committed to buying your program?
fine. Right. Right.
Right.
Right.
So there are certain things that I'm like, do not leave this out. It
Yeah.
is a game changer.
Gotcha.
But in terms of how you say it, you could say, so are you committed to making these changes? So are you committed to
Right.
solving that problem? So are you committed to up leveling? Like, I mean, how the words come out, I don't care. As
Right.
long as the framework is there.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point. So you still have that
Hmm.
flexibility, that freedom to make it sound like you, because you
Yeah.
still want you still want to be authentic. And I think that's the part I'm looking for, is people feel like sometimes, oh, feels inauthentic. So
Right.
so I love that. I love that. Okay. And so then you were saying, so we talked you said mindset,
Mindset, skill set. So in
Oh,
skill
God.
set, the first one is going to be getting a good converting sales script. That in itself
Mm-hmm.
can make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is going to be learning how to overcome buying objections.
Mm.
And understand, because a lot of people, like, they rock their script and then they get to the end and the person goes, oh yeah, I'd really love to do this, I just can't afford it. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, thank you.
Right.
Well, you know what? Keep me in mind. I'd love to check back in a couple of weeks and
Yeah.
see if anything has changed. And, you know where to find me, but there's no pressure whenever you're ready. And it's just
Right.
like, it's so wimpy. Um, the reality is that the sales objections have nothing to do with you, your product, or your service.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
If they're telling you that they don't have money, that is the obstacle that comes up that stops them from doing everything they want to do. If they're
Right.
telling you that they're too busy, that is the obstacle that stops them from getting everything they want. If they tell you that they're just afraid and don't know if they're going to succeed, like, that's what
Mm-hmm.
stops them. So my
Mm-hmm.
job as a salesperson is to get them what they want. That is literally my job, to get them what they
Right.
want. And
Right.
so it's also part of my job to remove that obstacle out of the way so that they can actually have permission and move forward towards what they want.
That's good.
So overcoming sales objection, and all of this stuff I do talk about in my book. I go through my 4-part process.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have time? Do you want me to tell you the 4 steps
Yeah.
to
Yes.
overcoming any objection?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It's kind of magical. So what you do, and the reason why we don't do this is because we've all had the experience of telling someone something and they completely discounted it and tried to make
Right.
us buy it anyway, right? They
Right.
didn't listen. They just were pushy. It was aggressive. It felt
Yeah.
confrontational.
And that's
And
when you
so
get into the kind of sleazy.
sleazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, we've all felt it, so we don't
Yeah.
want to give it. And so what you're going to do is you're simply going to acknowledge what they just said. Then
Mm-hmm.
you're going to ask a question. Then you're going to get permission to give them more information. Okay. So
Mm.
Jonelle, tell me, like, I'd love to work with you, Amy, but I just can't afford it. Okay.
Okay. So I'd love to work with you, Amy, but I just can't afford it right now.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that finances are the concern.
Yeah, I don't think it's in the budget.
Okay. So can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If we set money aside for just a minute, do you feel like this is the right program for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think would be the benefits of working with me?
I think you do a great job, pointing me in the right direction, giving me extra, additional support and resources, and I think we also get along really well.
Okay. So, do you think it would like work and that you'd actually hit your goals?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So then do I have permission to kind of brainstorm with you on how we can get the money and to work? Because I'd hate for you to miss your goals and just have money be the only thing that stops us if you feel like everything else lines up.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think brainstorming is a good start.
Okay, so then we went from a no, I can't afford it into a yeah, let's talk it through. And then we can talk about payment plans and we can talk
Mm,
about,
that's good.
financing options and we can go into all of that
Yeah,
stuff. But if you just say, well, I can't afford it, and I say, oh, no big deal. We have payment plans, we have financing options,
yeah,
like, you may or may not be there. So
right.
in that, I think I actually asked 3 questions. And the
Hmm.
reason why I asked the 3 questions is because you were still blocking me. So, like, you ask the questions until they're not
Right.
blocking you. And then
Right.
once their subconscious is not blocking you, then you can go
Yeah.
into permission.
Yeah, and the blocking tends to, because I've noticed like the blocking can sometimes be, they don't want to, kind of like give you the acknowledgement. I feel like sales is also a lot of body language. It's like, yeah,
Oh,
no,
so
I'm
much body
gonna,
language.
yeah, like I'm gonna sit away, I'm gonna cross my arms and act
Yeah.
disinterested.
Yeah, there's a lot of body language, which is challenging when, most of what we're doing is through the screen and you can only see, like, yeah,
Right.
it's a
The
little
upper
tricky, but
half.
you can still
Yeah.
pick up a lot.
No, that was a great exercise, right? And I love how you continue to ask the questions, but in a non-threatening way, because I think that
Mhm.
that is definitely, one of the things that we have to pick up on is that they're feeling like, okay, wait, you're coming on a little too strong here.
Mhm.
So that was great. I hope y'all enjoyed that example, and we're taking notes, okay?
You got put on the
But
hot seat there.
right, I know she put me on the spot, but that was good. Um, and you said you cover those things in your book. as well,
Yes.
right? Awesome. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about the book. I'd love for you to let them know, where they can, where they can find you, of
Mhm.
course, because you'll definitely want to stay connected with Amy. Just in this short amount of time, you guys have heard she's a wealth of knowledge, especially if you are looking to up your skills, and I would say that that's internally or externally. I think, sales is a combination of both. And so she would be a great resource for that. So Amy, how can they find, or how can they stay connected with you? And tell them where they can find the book as well.
Absolutely. So, if you want to join my community, I have a Facebook group called Acquire. And what we do inside of that group is we are dedicated to, like, you come in and there's a whole training course on sales and marketing. Like, we are
Nice.
dedicated to helping you consistently find your ideal clients.
That's awesome.
So, lots of great information in there. And just, it's a community. So, you can come and join a tribe with like minded people.
Mhm.
Now for the book though, I'd love to give the book for free for all of your readers. And
All
so it
right.
covers in the book, it covers the mindset, it
Yes.
covers the skill set, it covers the activity, but it also has in the appendix, it has the templates for all of my high converting scripts that I use with like my $25,000 clients.
See, guys, this is why I tell you to tune in each and every week, because you just never know what type of gifts are going to be headed your way. I feel like
Mhm.
it's Christmas in June.
Awesome. So if you go to www.salesaremything.com, salesaremything.com, you'll be able to go and grab the free digital version. Now, if you are the kind of person like me where I love the actual physical book,
Yeah.
you can get that too. You just pay for shipping and we'll send it to you.
Awesome. Awesome. So guys, that's salesaremything.com. And I'll make
Mhm.
sure to drop it in the chat after we finish here. So that
Awesome.
for those who come and listen to the recording. So Amy, this was awesome. So are you ready for our rapid
Lightning
fire? 5
round.
questions. Yes.
I am. I'm ready.
All right,
Bring
here we
it.
go. So these are 5 questions that I always ask my guests that I do not share with them. You guys know I don't share with them beforehand, so which means I am not responsible for what answers they get. All right, first one. What do you like to do for fun?
Writing. I
Right,
could do it all day,
obviously,
every day.
right? Yes,
Mhm.
yes, which I love. Like I said, I love that you did the fiction. 2, what's one stereotype about moms or women that drives you bananas?
Um, it's actually the it's the fact that we always qualify that we're a mom. Like it's men though. I don't mind it from women, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
drives me crazy when men refer to me as a mompreneur because it's like, oh, she's one of the best mompreneurs. I'm like, no, I'm one of the best entrepreneurs.
Right.
Like,
Yes,
it
yes,
doesn't bother me from other women, but for
right.
some reason, I don't like that.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
drives
Well,
me
it's like that
crazy.
code language, right? It's like we know what we mean, but it's like
Yes.
if you're not in the, if you're not in the club, you don't get to say that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the idea that like somehow my business is different or less important or less valid
Yeah.
because I have kids and I need to, and like my business gets put on the back burner for my kids. I'm like, no, like this is
Totally.
a legit company that runs. Yes, I have flexibility for my
Yes.
kids,
Yeah.
but no, it's not back burner. Like this is
Yeah.
that the kids have food because this business
Because this
exists.
business exists.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, I think we're always fighting for, we're always fighting that struggle of, proving that like, okay, no, we run businesses and we take care of babies. So
Yeah.
who is your BFF in your head?
Oh, my BFF in my head. Um, oh, that's funny. I have a lot of really good business BFFs and life BFFs.
Yeah.
Do I have an imaginary BFF?
I
I
love an
think
imaginary.
that I would be like super good friends with Jimmy Fallon.
I can see that though. That's funny. I literally could see that.
I think we would like gel. We would have so much fun together.
And especially on the humor level. Like that's so good. I like that. Okay, what do you dream of becoming?
So I dream of becoming I really dream that my books are going to be bestsellers and that I'm
Oh,
going to get movie deals and
yeah.
then I'm going to get interviewed by Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I like that. Look at you. Just this could be like your, well, I mean, you've owned a couple of businesses. This could be like your next one.
Well, I don't want to give up what I have, but
Sure.
like, yeah, I want to sell so many books that I am like the next JKR, except
Yeah.
I like doing interviews and publicity.
Right. Well, and I don't know, like, if you're familiar with, well, of course, you know, Stacey Abrams, but, you know, she also writes books. But a
Hmm.
lot of people don't know that because her pen name is completely different
Yeah,
from
I have
Stacey
a pen
Abrams.
name too, so people
Yeah,
don't get confused with the business.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so, like, they published an article about it, you know, when she was running, and people were like, "Oh my God, I had no idea she wrote books."
Uh-huh.
Actually, really popular.
Yeah, it's awesome.
uh, okay. So, last question: favorite song and why?
Favorite song and why? Okay, I'm going to give you two.
Okay.
This is the first one that popped into my mind. So, being a cellist,
Uh
the
huh.
Enigma Variations by Elgar are amazing, like best cello
Oh
parts I've ever
wow.
played. It's just like
Okay.
your soul singing. It really it feels like just your soul is singing.
Yeah.
But then also I am a major Beatles fan, and
Oh,
picking
the
my
Beatles.
favorite Beatles song is like picking my favorite child. You kind of have one, but it's not really appropriate to say.
Right,
But I'm going to
exactly.
go with Yesterday. I love Yesterday.
Oh, yesterday's a good one. That's a good one. That's awesome. Good job, Amy.
I've never been able to only do two. Usually I'm like, well, let me tell you my top 10 favorite songs. And they're like, no, I asked for one. I know, but I'm giving you
Right.
10.
Exactly. Because you're asking me the impossible.
Yeah,
That's so good. So good. Listen, this was great. I so appreciate you taking the time to share this space with me, share this time with me, and share with the audience. You guys, I hope like you definitely took notes because she shared a lot of great nuggets. And if not, go back and watch the recording. You know, I always say if there's another, you know, womanpreneur out there, another mompreneur out there who you know would benefit from hearing this, who needs this, you know, make sure you hit that share button and share this with them because sharing is caring, right? So thank you guys for your time this week. Next week, we actually have an off week next week, but then I'll be back the following week, same time, same place. And as always, my friends, you can have it all as long as you are having it on your terms and your time. So thank you guys. Thank you, Amy, for being my
you're
special
welcome.
guest today. And hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Be well and be blessed.